welcome to the Serpent Temple podcast and YouTube channel. I am joined by Ben and Chloe from Raven. I nearly said Serpent Temple Records. From Raven Records. There's a Freudian slip there. And I am myself, Nina, and Floyd. Hello. We're going to do a Psycard reading. So I'm going to give you the cards. These cards are based on the Jungian archetypes. So maybe we can pull for both of you. Sure. So we'll do a minimum 3 card reading, past, present, and future. So give them a shuffle. And while you imbue them with your spirit, tell us about what you do, because it's amazing.
Okay, I'll shuffle and you can talk.
Oh, I can talk, can I? Wonderful. Shuffle away then. So what do we do at Raven Records? So primarily we're a record shop, but also we're an alcohol-free bar and a coffee shop. Pretty much it.
That's what you do. So you opened about 6 months ago now, right?
Yeah,
it was like December, I believe.
Yes, late November. Yeah,
late November.
So December's close enough.
Why not? So since then you've done listening parties. You had Ben from Orange Goblin here last week.
Yeah, we had most of Orange Goblin here for the listening of their new album, which is out in mid-July, which was really cool. So the shop was rammed for that. It was just before Desert Fest as well, so that worked out really well. We've had some band signings. We've got another one coming up on Sunday with Collateral, which is quite cool. So we're trying to sort of not just stick to one genre of metal, but embrace all of metal, even the really little weird niche bits that people consider to not be metal a lot of the time, like the hair metal and the glam metal and the sleaze and stuff like that, which I suppose for some people is on the softer side of metal, as well as the more extreme Black Death and sort of noise-based stuff as well.
Hell yeah. And tell us about your bar. So you've got some really interesting coffee blends, I noticed. You have like a 10 out of 10 comes with a health warning.
The Black Cross, comes with a health warning, drink at your own risk. It's a wonderful coffee. I mean, we try and bring in the best coffee we can do. We use the pour-over method, which allows us to do multiple types of coffee. So you get to choose the beans rather than when you go into a normal record shop where you pick one type of coffee done several different ways. We do different types of coffee done one way, essentially the pour over method, which gives us better control over water temperature, speed of the water, filtration, so you end up with a better tasting cup of coffee at the end of it. And we use companies like Black Coffee Worship, who do heavy metal themed coffee, and also Behemoth Coffee as well, which comes direct from the band. So we import that from Poland, which is, amazing that we were able to bring that in. So people can actually try that coffee and then obviously go back to Behemoth and buy that from them.
As a me and Floyd are non-drinkers, so when we saw your bar, we were really excited because you have genuinely good options. And we were talking earlier, it's not just like Red Bull and some water. You have different flavors of Liquid Death, which are quite nice. We have tasted them now. And you just had you had the CBD.
CBD drinks, mushroom-based drinks, full range of beers, ciders. We've got spirits as well. For me, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I'm now just over 16 and a half years without a drink.
Congrats.
And thank you. And for me, going into a metal bar and having no options was really disappointing. I still like going out and watching bands and experiencing metal bars. I grew up going to metal bars and I was missing that. And all of the alcohol-free places we went to, it was white walls. It was all sort of, mindful drinking, and that's not who I am. And, I wanted something that still felt metal and still felt true to who I was as an individual. So being able to offer that to other people as well, to go through that experience, to say that you can not drink, whether you choose to or whether you are forced to, in terms of me with the alcoholism, I don't have a choice to drink or not drink. If I do go back to drinking, it's, several bottles of whiskey a day, which is what I was on at 22. And I very much do not want to go back there. And this offers an alternative to the other bars. But obviously, you can come in, you can buy a record, you can buy a coffee. You don't have to drink their alcohol-free drinks. That seems to be a big sticking point with a lot of people. That idea that somehow not drinking is a hipster thing. I think when we were in Metal Hammer, one of the comments that came out was, poser hipster metal wankers, because of the alcohol-free bar.
Well, it's difficult to pose and have an incredible collection of vinyl and then coffee that you've sourced, and to be like recovering from an addiction and then not giving into that. So that's like what
but,
take.
Lots of people assume that it's a licensing issue, that we've got the alcohol-free bar, and don't kind of look into actually the purpose of it and the reason why it's there, which is, people do. Sometimes they'll come and ask, and, I generally ask people, is there a reason why you're not drinking? Just to sort of invoke conversation, essentially, and then I can sort of share a bit of my story with them as well, and make them feel more comfortable about, if they aren't drinking. But we've got people that come in and say, I don't really drink that much, but I do when I go out with my mates. And that would be an interesting conversation, I think, to have with all of their friends together, and say, well, how many of you are actually saying the same thing, and how many of you don't actually really want to drink that much, but you do because you think everyone else of your friends expects you to drink at an excessive level, and it's okay as well to drink excessively now and then, and let yourself go and let your hair down and stuff like that. I still do that, obviously not with drinking or anything else. I'll do like one man mosh pit by myself, let out all my anger, swing my hair around, and find other ways to release that pent up aggression and stuff like that, which again is slightly more difficult, I suppose, because it's not just something you can run down to the shop and go and get to sort of drown out my issues. It's something I have to work through. So still shuffling.
Should we start on the reading?
Yeah.
Let's
do it.
So we'll take 3 cards face down. Don't turn them over yet. So you take the first one and just put it face down on the table.
Okay. From the top or anywhere?
Anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take the top one.
Yeah? Yeah? No? No, okay. Here we go. Truly chaotic. You can take the next one. This will be the present. Nice. And then for the future, you can maybe you can both pull it at the same time. You can do a dual pull.
Okay.
Which one are you going for? I found them. Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So that's your future. So we'll start with the past. Feel free to turn that over and I'll read you the description and you can tell me how you feel about it.
Okay.
Friendship. That's apt. I'll read you friendship. So that is number-wise number 11. Is that an important number for you guys?
Yes.
Do tell.
Yeah, after you, I'll let you explain it. Well, we first met, didn't we?
we first met on the 11th for a start.
Yeah.
So 11 is a
big number for us.
A big number, yeah.
Yeah. It also links in with Lucifer, doesn't it, as well, for us, the number 11. So, yeah.
And Astaroth.
Yeah.
That is very significant.
Yeah. Since Astaroth's with us.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
So I'll read you the description. 3 comrades are seen drinking in a tavern with a hint of a 4th about to join them. Drinking is significant. Wines and spirits in barrels in the background and an exotic bird. The atmosphere is cheerful and the beer is flowing. The card shows that aspect of life that centers around friends, comradeship and sociability. It stands for parties and togetherness.
Well, I'll let you start. I think I've kind of hit on that quite a bit with my excessive drinking.
I mean, drinking, I don't generally drink very much anymore. I used to a lot. It's never really, I came to the conclusion a while back that it's never really had a positive impact on my life. A lot of my bad life decisions have been based as a result of drinking alcohol. So, I don't have anything against it. Like, it's all good. Like, I think there's room for everybody and everything. So, there's been, I guess, in both of our pasts, there's been a lot of excess. I worked as a DJ when I was younger. I was in the dance scene. So, I was constantly surrounded by that kind of environment with drugs and alcohol. So yeah.
It's interesting that you've constructed your own version of that tavern now, where there is flowing drinks and comradeship, and you have secular 12-step meetings down here too in this room, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. grab that. Yeah. So in terms of the recovery meetings that we do down here, it's completely separate from Raven Records. It was born out of my own frustration with the 12 steps and being told that I could only do it with a Christian God. I had Satanists telling me the same thing, as well as Christians telling me the same thing. So after 8 years of being in AA, I ended up writing a book, essentially, which got published. It's available on Amazon. And then through the pandemic, I had people saying, can we start meetings? And then meetings started online from that. And then there was an in-person one in San Diego that gets 32 people a week turn up to a fire pit meeting. And now, obviously, we're able to do one in here, which is amazing to sort of help and support people that do have any kind of addiction problems, working through a 12-step recovery program with the removal of God, the Christian element of God. So me, as a Satanist, I'm an I-theist, as in I am God because I am master of my own reality. So my higher power is my future self. That does not exist yet. That's something I'm striving to create. So therefore, everything is then moving forward towards that to become what I want to be and what I'm trying to manifest in a future element. But yeah, both those entities are separate from sort of Raven Records, though. And what I do with Satanic Recovery is not the same as Raven Records, but it's nice that they can link together in that format.
I want to ask quickly, so before you settled on this location, what was so grim about the kebab shop in Tufnell Park that made you decide that wasn't the location?
Well, are you sure you want to know the answer to this question?
I kind of do. It's kind of a morbid curiosity at this point.
So yeah, it was as mentioned, it was an old kebab shop. The kebab shop themselves, they'd moved, I think, a bit further down the road. But this place, like the stairs all had holes, like wooden stairs had holes in them. We went downstairs and in the cellar, and they'd cardboarded the ceiling because it was falling down.
Yeah, they used gaffer tape as well.
Yeah, there was
on the ceiling.
There was it was just horrendous, wasn't it? It was filth everywhere through the walls.
The grease off the ceilings as well.
It was
everything was brown, and we walked out, didn't we? And said, I'm never eating it.
Yeah, exactly that.
Brutal.
Yeah.
That's not it. Should we go to the present?
Sure.
You can turn over the present. It's your turn. Liberation 38. How appropriate. So let me read this one for you. A pair of lovers dash on horseback through the open fortress gateway across a bridge to freedom. Here is depicted the joyous escape from a constricting situation. It stands for those occasions where, often by some outside agency, we are somehow set free to make a new life. However, note that although the key is in the lock, there is no bolt. Therefore, the card also represents those situations where we do have the ability for release within ourselves.
Ooh.
On point again, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Raven Records represents a new future for us. It's a new business, it's a new start. You were made redundant a couple of years ago from working as a groundsman, where Ben had worked for 16 years. So you wanted to change. We both wanted to do something new. Raven Records was an idea that I came up with whilst doing a meditation, actually a walking meditation along the cliffs in Menorca. And Mallorca, I think it was. And the idea was born back then. And when I met Ben, we developed the idea after you were made redundant, and decided it was the right time to proceed with it. Really.
I'd also I've also been up in my magical practice during lockdown, and one of the things I think was 10 months before I met Chloe, I'd actually had a vision of a woman in a cloak outside a shop, which was quite interesting to then, so I had basically an Etch-a-Sketch restart after lockdown. I got divorced. I got made redundant. I was living at work, so I lost my house. So I basically had to start from scratch again. And sort of during that process, I met Chloe, and the liberation for me is to sort of having been able to let go of that old life and allow that old part of me to die. Obviously, I still have to bring some of it with me. I've got 2 children, so I try and see them as often as I can. But yeah, it's that sort of going through that gate, through the gateway, which again is interesting. I have 2 gateways on my shoulders.
You do.
One of which is based on Norse mythology, and one of them is sort of esoteric occult based and features Greenwich Observatory. I was born in Greenwich, and John Dee was there as well. The observatory was actually a well where they used to look at the stars, and my magical training was done with the Star Club. So there's loads of sort of synchronicities and esoteric links in there, so that's also quite interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a dream of both of ours, isn't it, to own a record shop since we were younger. Like a lot of my friends owned record shops when I was a DJ, and I used to spend my life hanging out in them. So yeah, it's a dream that we wanted to make into reality, really.
What were the bands that got you interested in collecting records and being involved in that?
Well, I mean, I grew up listening to kind of 80s hair metal, so massive Cinderella fan, like bands like Y&T and Rat, Dokken, and all of those guys. So that was really for me, and Def Leppard as well. Love a bit of Def Leppard. We both grew up listening to Def Leppard. But
yeah. I mean, for me, slightly different. I mean, my mum was really into prog, so it was Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Uriah Heep, King Crimson. Then it was Led Zeppelin, bit of Black Sabbath, so I grew up kind of listening to that. Def Leppard as well was a massive one. Dire Straits as well. My granddad was their postman. He said he used to give them postal sacks for curtains, and he said he turned up one day and they had a Ferrari outside, and then they were massive. So what's the song about MTV? Money for Nothing was a massive one growing up. I had a mixtape when I was like 5 years old that had sort of Def Leppard, Dire Straits on it. Who else was it? Bruce Springsteen, like Born in the USA. I loved that as a kid. And then obviously my music taste changed as I grew up. So then it went sort of, I had a bit of a dance phase to try and fit in with everyone else, and it just felt uncomfortable. I still do listen to a bit of dance music every now and again. I mean, we do cheese in the shop before we open and when we close, just have a bit of a break from the metal. But then, I did, like Metallica, Sepultura, those Fear Factory, all those kind of things as a teen. And then someone frightened me when I got into recovery and said that your music taste will change when you hit recovery because you're linking those songs back to when you were drinking. And I was like, oh shit, that can't be true. And then it fell off a cliff basically and went down a massive dark hole. So it was all the black and the death metal, and Dragged Into Sunlight are one of my favourite bands now. When my daughter was born, I was wearing the first Dragged Into Sunlight t-shirt because she was obviously dragged into sunlight. So I thought, when the second one came along, when my son came along, I had the t-shirt from the second album. So both my kids have been introduced to the world with first thing they see is a Dragged Into Sunlight t-shirt and some weird hairy dude.
You've seen that they're playing Hatred for Mankind at Damnation.
I have, yes, and I'm definitely trying. It's actually one day after I hit 17 years of not drinking, so I'm definitely going to try and go and get tickets to that so I can see that album in full, just to hear the scream when we go from sort of Volcanic Birth into Buried with Leeches. That scream actually completely makes me relax. I mean, Chloe's seen it in the car. We were really stressed out on the way to download last year. We'd been in the car for 8 hours, I think, by that point.
That was the traffic,
it took us 5 hours to do the last mile, and we were getting really stressed, and I just said to Chloe, I'm going to have to do it. She could see how tense I was. As soon as that scream hit, my whole body just went, ah.
So were you guys at Download for Business, or was it just as punters? Or
it was punters last year, wasn't it? Yeah. Punters,
was that the Metallica one where they did the double header?
They slightly upset me a little bit. I was hoping they were going to do Unforgiven 1, 2, 3 back to back. They had the perfect opportunity to do it. But unfortunately, But 2 great sets from Metallica. I think the first one was slightly better in terms of Lars's timing, but.
There's a bit of controversy about the double kick during one, because I think some people said it was kind of added in post, but it was. But I watched the performance; it seemed good to me.
I enjoyed it while I was there. So no complaints from me.
Was that when I got lost?
I believe.
Yeah, I managed to get lost in the Metallica set as well, and lose everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
There was.
Should we move on to the future?
Sure.
I don't know how I could make you both turn it over at the same time. It might be awkward, but we can give it a go. Dual future. The Warrior.
Oh, nice.
Oh, number 28. Okay. Let me read this to you. Number 28. The Warrior. A warrior is seen in all his pride, in full armor against the background of a medieval castle, with a sword drawn but at rest. This card stands for the hero who rescues his princess, the knight in shining armor of the fairy stories. He is an embodiment of the masculine virtue of strength and courage, but one aspect can be the reverse. As with the beauty, hence the reverse crosses, he can be vengeful, quarrelsome, aggressive, and the typical male chauvinist pig. This was written in the 70s, so...
It says reverse crosses though, so we've got a good. Yeah, I think that fits quite well, really, doesn't it? You know, the goddess in her throne, like being worshipped by the warrior. You know?
Oh yeah.
Don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Is he your knight in shining armor?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we support each other. You know, we're really supportive of each other, and you know, it just makes a massive difference to each other's lives. Like we miss each other so much when we're not together, and you know, if we could spend every minute of the day together, we would. Unfortunately, there are other responsibilities. But, yeah.
That's really beautiful. I think you have a really interesting spread. It's very powerful. There's a lot of connection there. There's a lot of like stuff from the past that you've used to like transform into something more beautiful, into like metal or gold. I don't know if you want to get alchemical, but that's a really interesting spread you've got, and I think it's interesting. So, what do you see for the future of Raven? Do you see it growing more, or do you like it as it is now?
Yeah, we've got lots of plans, haven't we? It's just trying to find the time to execute them all and fit them all in. We'd like to expand the range, so expand the range of music, in merch, and also stock different formats as well within the shop. We've got lots of new products that we want to develop. We'd like to start offering cocktails and our own brands. We've just introduced our own coffee as well. We've done a collaboration with Black Coffee Worship, so we've now got Conspiracy of Ravens blend. So there's lots of things that we're planning to do.
Yeah. I think things take time, don't they? That's the thing, is trying to, you know, not be impatient with things. Just like with magic, generally, it happens when it's ready, not when you want it to happen. Yeah, as I've experienced sort of over the years, sort of doing my own magical practice, you know, you can put things in motion, and then you just kind of have to let them fly, you know, and see where they end up. So, you know, and there's some amazing things we would like to do. You know, sometimes funding is an issue, because it's obviously just the pair of us, sort of putting our money in and working through it to make it work. You know, we're putting the effort and the magic in. So things in the shop, we built them. You know, we painted the walls. You know, we built the bar and the throne and the pews, and you know, the DJ booth, and you know, it's that kind of thing. And I think people can see that we're building the foundations for something that potentially might be bigger. You know, we'll see. Hopefully, you know, there is enough of a draw that kind of, you know, make some kind of community out of this. That would be amazing as well, you know, and not knocking off or cutting out, you know, like the Dev or the Black Heart or the Underworld or, you know, Electric Ballroom and places where people can go to drink. It's not about being anti-drink. It's about just giving an alternative option. And even if, you know, this fails and the local bars end up with slightly more non-alcoholic options, then it's a win for me anyway, you know, because it means that I can then go into other bars and still drink stuff and still experience those social environments. You know, that's great as well. So, you know, we're not in competition with these places. You know, we're at hopefully part of them and part of that group, and people, customers can view it in that way as well, you know, that we're adding to, not trying to take away or compete with the metal scene in Camden. And so, hopefully, that's something that we can do.
And they've all been extremely supportive as well, which has been really appreciated from everybody that everyone in the area. So that's been awesome as well.
I'm really glad because you guys just belong in the fabric of Camden. Like, it makes total sense that you're here. And I'm sad you weren't here sooner because I would have come here every weekend when I was a teenager, honestly. Yeah,
I think it's just such a great USP because, like, as somebody that's always been sober as well, part of the thing for me was constantly having to explain, and I didn't mind, but I felt like, having I've always felt there's been a demographic of metal fans that have just been yearning for something like this. It just cuts out a lot of the, not to say that I'm not, I mean, maybe I've been born in London, so I probably am a bit uncommunicative and antisocial, but it's, but like a lot of the time, it was like, I didn't mind ever explaining why I was sober, but there'd be some people that acted like I just said, I had two heads in the scene. And it's just like, having to constantly go through that with people multiple times was just like, so having a space where like, where it's already tailored towards that demographic just makes so much complete sense.
Yeah. I remember actually sitting in the old Intrepid Fox on Wardour Street, and I was trying. This was when I was trying to stop drinking, or at least cut down, and I was drinking shandies because it still looked like a beer, but it was obviously lighter because they didn't have anything of the sort of the lower stuff. And someone said to me, "Do you want a drink?" And I was like, "I'll have a shandy. I'm not buying you one of those pussy drinks. So you're having a real drink, or I'm not getting you one at all." And I'm like, "But that's actually what I want." So I broke and went, all right, I'll have a full pint then. And it's that kind of peer pressure, I think, sometimes, especially when you're not as confident within yourself and you are battling something like an addiction, trying to overcome it and be your better self. So it gives an option for that. And I think there is still that element within the metal scene and the metal community, which is, it's a shame sometimes that people aren't allowed just to be themselves. So we've had people come in and talk about sort of different types of music and say this is a guilty pleasure, and I always say there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure. We talked about in one of the other groups I'm in, we talked about the idea of sin and the concept of sin, not just from a Christian element, but like there's satanic sins and other sins. And it was like, what is the root thing that makes something a sin? And we realized that it was guilt. If you feel guilt over something, then it's essentially a sin. So I don't have guilty pleasures. I just have pleasures. So, on my days off, I'll sit and, do stuff on the laptop and watch rom-coms. I've probably seen 27 dresses more times than there is dresses in the film.
Rom-coms are great. The proposals. When we were recording our album, we'd come home after like 8 hours of doing metal and just watch like the most gross rom-com on Netflix, because you just need to watch Devil Wears Prada sometimes.
Yes, no, exactly. You need that kind of bit of an uplift, and that's great, and that doesn't make me any less of a metal fan. That's the thing.
I think that's really interesting because, like, we live in a way a post-Christian society in the West, and like it's a shame-based religion, and most of like the Semitic religions, not all of them, some of them are shame-based, and I think when it comes to like shaming you for not drinking something that person would find emasculating for whatever reason, because a drink is not linked to your virility as a man, and that even your virility as a man is not linked to how much of a man you are or whatever human you are. And I think it's interesting that we, even in the metal scene, which is supposed to be a place for people who are different, who don't fit into the status quo, if you don't, some people are scared to not fit into that status quo because there are people out there policing and shaming people.
Indeed.
And that's a symptom of that previous shame-based thing, that the systems that we are grown up with. Yeah, that we're taught at school.
It's also about themselves, essentially, because they're frightened that they have an issue.
Exactly.
So they project that onto other people.
You're being
because
enabled.
if you're like that, then I'm not that bad.
Exactly. I think the minute you say you don't drink, everyone wants to buy you one.
Yes,
I've noticed that myself.
Or ask you why.
Yeah, I had someone shout at me before because I didn't want to drink.
Yeah. So we had someone that come in that actually said something to us that I thought was actually quite amazing. So when people say to them, why are you not drinking? You ask them, why are you drinking?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
What's the reason you're drinking? I mean, you had a conversation with someone at work yesterday about they were going out for a meal and, you know, they were going to just drink Coke because they're not drinking. And it was, well, why don't you just have a mocktail? Well, why would I want to drink that? It's got no alcohol in it. And the whole conversation was actually, so you're only drinking for the effect rather than the taste. And I think a lot of people, when they stop drinking or take a break from it, they'll punish themselves by drinking things like Coke or, you know, Sprite or something. Of course. Yeah. But they do that so when they go back to drinking, it's like, oh, thank goodness I'm back to the real stuff. Yeah. And I don't like that idea between a real drink and a not real drink. Like, it's not real beer, it's fake beer and real beer because of the alcohol percentage, you know. I don't get that.
It's all beer.
Yeah, it is all beer, all cider, you know, what have you. I also I get frustrated as well by the term safe space because that gives me the impression that the outside world is too dangerous and frightening for me, and somehow I need protecting. I don't.
You're a warrior. You're both warriors. Yeah,
exactly. It's just to give an alternative. You know, it's something that I can't do because essentially I'm going to die because I will drink myself to death because I have no off button for drinking. So it's something that I can't do. So I created a space where I felt comfortable and that, you know, was essentially for me. I'm a Satanist. I'm selfish. You know, I created this space for me, and that means that hopefully it draws other people like me to it. I suppose that's where we'll get a lot of magicians, witches, and so forth in the shop. So they're drawn to it through what we put out, I suppose, with our vibrational frequencies.
I suppose it's the passion you put into it. I always find when you yourself have put so much of yourself into a project or something, that's what resonates with like other people as well. You know.
Yeah, they looked in terms of vibrational frequencies and how or what we put out, and they found that if you're on the same wave as someone else, then that increases. And actually authenticity is the one with the highest vibrational frequency. So if you have someone that is authentic and being authentic, then they have a massive vibrational frequency. And then if you put that with other people that are authentic, it's huge. So, you know, you can put out, you know, vibrations and cause waves, you know, and I suppose that's what we're starting to do here. This is the drop in the ocean, and we're seeing how far these waves can go out.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys are, you know, it's before opening. You're here early just for us. So we're going to go buy some records to support you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And anyone watching, come and buy some records.
Buy records.
It's really close to Camden Town Station.
It's super close. And if you're going to a gig like at the Underworld or the Ballroom, it's literally around the corner. So it's well worth it. We also
post records so you can buy them and we'll ship them to you.
Yeah, we ship worldwide.
I just want to say you helped settle this age-old debate, which is the pronunciation of the band Behemoth. So I grew up watching Robot Wars, so I used to pronounce it Behemoth for the longest time. And it's just become this weird thing in the scene now, isn't it? Where just like no one can decide on what the pronunciation is.
I always say Behemoth.
That's kind of like a mix of both.
Behemoth, Behemoth. Yeah. Behemoth. How do you say
Behemoth?
Behemoth.
Yeah. Behemoth.
I've had Behemoth as well.
I'm from South East London, so it's always going to come out a bit Cockney.
I like Cockney Behemoth. Yeah. Any final remarks?
No, just thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's beautiful here. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and buy some records. Thanks, guys.